I want to move on to another coach who was quite vocal last night. We've already brought up two of them. Alvin Gentry will now be our third. He was plenty frustrated after the Pelicans lost to the Sixers last night. Philly snapped a 23-game road losing streak. You don't want to be the team they do that against. And afterward, Gentry snapped at a reporter who asked him about his job security. Take a listen.
I really don't give a about my job status. I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna coach until the day they tell me I'm not the coach here anymore. It doesn't matter. I don't ever worry about that. That is not anything that I spend 5 seconds worrying about. My worry is that how do I get the guys in the locker room to play at the level that I want them to? That's where all my effort goes. It doesn't go anywhere else.
Listen, man, it doesn't matter who comes in and coaches this team. That's a depleted roster. You got a lot of these guys shouldn't even be in the NBA. I mean, you know how you go to some live shows and they like to put in fill-ins? You know, that's what these guys are on this roster. They just fill in the roster. That's all they are.
That's losing, and that's losing basketball. Anytime you start talking about your job,
right?
Hey, sometimes I think he was going into a job and think he had the same personnel from the Golden State Warriors because absolutely, because he had shooters, especially there and also when he was the coach at the Phoenix Suns. Now you go to a team. You're 29th in the league in three-point percentage. He doesn't have the personnel.
You and I agree on this, and we don't think he's been set up to succeed. We've talked about it a lot, and Alvin's great. I mean, he's a great guy, and he connects with players. Is there something, though, if you have the top 10 player in the league, you have to do something a 100%. Little bit more than what they've been doing? I mean, they're 7-16.
Mac is probably on management.
It's all management. You got to get him better players.
That's it.
I believe if you're a top 5 player in the league, you have to be at least an 8th seed in the playoffs. If you have a top 5 player
in the
Western Conference.
I believe that, yes.
Not happening. All right, it's time for a very special edition of Distant Replay from this date in 2004. Tracy, do you know what we're talking about?
Well, my Chinese fans let me know. Hey, they let me know it's the 12th year anniversary.
13 points in 35 seconds,
the young Mac right there.
That was so good. Look at that. And everybody on the court knew. That's amazing.
No.
Mac, my Chinese name is Mighty. So.
No, Mac, do you understand how good you were? Sometimes when I talk to you, you don't believe how good you were.
Yesterday, right? And whenever I introduce him, I say, oh, this man's going into the Hall of Fame. Yes. It's all blushy. Look at your numbers. They are insane.
Because it's funny, when I see guys like KD, Kevin Durant, and people are like, oh, these guys are the greatest wing players that ever played this game. I said, do you remember Tracy McGrady? Do you know the guy that can play?
35 seconds.
I mean, come on, man. Really, dude. Pat yourself on the back every now and then.
You pat it for me.
Oh, baby. This commercial break is going to be longer than that. We'll see how much he scores over on the hoops. We'll let you know when we get back. All right, guys. There is no one in the league, as both these guys know, quite like Greg Popovich. He went off after last night's game, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I just want to throw you a little context about Pop off the court. You remember, I'm sure, his strong comments after the election. What you might not know, though, is how Pop followed those words up. A few weeks ago, he and Harvard professor Cornel West volunteered to speak to more than 250 local San Antonio kids. These were kids who, for the most part, had a skin color that's very different than that of the president-elect. Kids who'd talked to their parents and teachers about feeling scared by a lot of the recent events in this country. They felt left behind. And here is what Pop told them. Quote, hopefully you all believe in your soul that there are many people who care about you, love you, and know that you have tremendous value. Don't let anybody take that away from you. I wanted to show you there are people in your community who care, and we understand that there are problems that have to be fixed. He then went on to answer questions for more than 2 hours. And it wasn't just kids there that day. The Spurs players and coaches were also on hand on a Sunday, not because they had to be, but because they wanted to be. And that's where you want to circle back to what happened last night. The Spurs, they lost to the Bulls after they came out flat. They fell behind by 18 points. And afterward, Pop was asked what he as a coach can do to get his guys more ready. And well, he was Pop. Listen to what he had to say here.
I don't remember playing tonight. I didn't play. Guys get a lot of money to be ready to play. No Newt Rockney speeches. It's your job. If you're a plumber and you don't do your job, you don't get any work. I don't think the plumber needs a pep talk. If the doctor botches operations, he's not a doctor anymore. If you're a basketball player, you come ready. It's called maturity. It's your job.
not subtle. Just like a couple weeks ago when the Spurs won a game against Dallas, won a game, and Pop also not subtle, calling his own team, quote, pathetic. Now, with some coaches, frankly, this act could get old. San Antonio may have had an off night against Chicago, but the Spurs do have the second best win percentage in the entire league. And on a lot of teams, if players were performing that well, but kept getting publicly ripped, well, that's the kind of thing that can lose a coach a locker room. But these are the same players who heard Pop talk to those kids a few weeks ago, who've been hearing him for years. And the kind of man that Pop is, the integrity he regularly shows, that matters in this equation. That's why Pop has the room to be extra harsh, even when it's not always completely warranted. And that's why he remains this sport's best coach, period. Now, Tracy, you played for Pop. You can tell us what it's like firsthand. His principles and credibility, does that soften the blow when he sometimes really, I mean, he calls guys out hard.
Well, 5-time champion. He's the best coach in our game today. He knows what it takes to motivate his players. With saying that, they're 18-5. Now, people from the outside will look at this and be like, what is he complaining about? They're 18-5. They have, but a coach of this caliber, any coach coaching the NBA team, you know the temperature of your team. You know that although we're 18-5, we're not playing our best basketball, and this could be devastating coming down the line.
Yeah, that's the definition of, his comments was the definition of a championship coach. I had the luxury of playing with a great coach in Larry Brown and Jim Calhoun in college. And both coaches, they would say different things in the locker room or before practice to try to motivate guys, because they understood that in order for us to win a championship and get there again, we had to be prepared. We had to be hungry, because a lot of times it's a long season, and with them being 18-5, they kind of get complacent. So with not having Tim Duncan in that locker room, he got to figure out different ways to motivate these guys all year round.
When I was there for that short stint, very short stint, I saw Pop coach Tim Duncan like he was one of the 15 guys on the team. Like, he got on these guys, Tony, Manu, he got on them like, you know, they were rookies. And they sat there and they took it. And you, as a young player, see Coach Popovich getting on Hall of Fame players like that, and they sit back and take, you have to fall in line.
Are there times, though, where it does sort of get so abrasive? I mean, from my perspective, I spent years as a sideline reporter. I have a great relationship with Coach Popovich. We will have long conversations off the court, you know, about things, and he's been incredibly kind and respectful toward me. I got lucky with him in sideline interviews. We never had like an incident or a moment, but I know several people who have, including the great Doris Burke, who is fantastic at her job, or David Aldridge, who is a Hall of Fame reporter. And he doesn't have to be that harsh to them. This is just their job. And by the way, the league gets paid a lot of money for TNT and ESPN to be able to come and do that. And there are times where, Trace, I know you've told me about interactions you had with him. I mean, are there points where you're just sort of like, dude, chill out? Yeah,
I mean, that's what are you going to do? That's his personality. We're not going to be able to change that. That's who he is, right? I think sometimes it's frustrating when you're trying to get an answer out of him, and he comes across that way. It was like that with me sometimes, but, you know, hey, what am I to do?
I was always, I mean, for me, though, there was always the cushion of like, okay, but he's such a good guy, such a good person. He's so smart, and he does have that championship pedigree. It makes it all go down with a little bit more sugar. I don't know. Let's move on to Carmelo Anthony. He'd been pretty quiet about Phil Jackson's comments that basically accused him of being a ball hog, but he did post a couple cryptic Instagram pictures yesterday. The first post reads, "Ego is the only requirement to destroy any relationship. So be a bigger person, skip the E, and let it go." And then a photo of Muhammad Ali with unfazed. My life summed up in one photo. Stay mellow. Now, a little cryptic, maybe. Not that cryptic. We all maybe knew who he was talking about. But he made it clear today. He said, "I didn't talk to Phil Jackson, so I don't know where he was coming from with those comments. If he wants to talk to me about it, cool. If he doesn't, cool. In my eyes, it's over. I feel like we're playing good basketball and just seem to have a temporary black cloud over our heads."
You gotta love it. I love it. I like that he stepped up, because, and that's when you really gotta love social media, because it gives the players a voice.
Right.
And a lot of times when you talk to beat writers and writers and things like that, sometimes they they take your message and they trick
They turn it around.
They turn
You're
your
going
words
through a
around.
filter. Even if everyone has good intentions and is good at their job, you are going through a filter.
They
this
do
way
that.
you can go direct.
And a lot of the teams, they pretty much run a lot of these beat writers. So with social media, it gives a guy like Melo a voice and lets the public know that, hey, you know what, he's not cool with just what Phil just actually out there just saying words.
That he called Phil out.
Yes.
I mean, I really do. I like that he is going back at Phil because he's caused some unwanted distractions to the team. Yes, they have been playing good basketball as of late. For the Knicks, they have been playing good basketball as of late.
I did throw that in there.
Yeah. And for all this to be circling around this organization based off of what Phil has been saying in the media, I mean, you're causing just unwanted distraction, throwing your best player under the bus and putting him out like that. I mean, that's not cool. I'm glad Melo came back at him like this.
I don't think Melo was so happy with Phil's comments about his friend LeBron
Absolutely.
either. And he
shouldn't
kept
have been.
his tongue held then, and then this happened. And I think Melo's earned it, frankly. If he wants to come out and say, look, this isn't cool, he has earned the right to do that.
And look, and Phil, too. I mean, when Phil made his comments and then Melo said what he had to say, that it wasn't right, or what he said about LeBron, I think Phil felt some type of way about that, too.
Yeah. Really? Okay. So you think this was a little bit more of a nudge in the other direction, power play, power
100%.
struggle, should not be happening within your own team. Just a thought. The Mavericks, bit of a free fall with a league worst 4-17 record. They'd love 14 wins, right? I don't know. Maybe if you're 4-17, that puts a coach in that what the heck, screw it mindset. But regardless, here's what happened last night against the Kings. Dallas had no timeouts left. Yet twice, Carlisle called a timeout anyway because he wanted to stop play and talk to his team. Of course, if you call a timeout when you don't have one, you get a technical, guys. You get fined $2,000 each time. But hey, you do stop play. So I don't know, Tracy, is this a next level genius move? Or is Carlisle kind of lost it at this point? They still lost by 31. It didn't do anything.
That's why he was calling them damn timeouts.
Yeah, he was trying to figure out something else. I've never seen that before.
Listen, man, for a coach to call timeouts when you know you don't have any more timeouts, that lets you know how bad y'all playing right now.
Right.
And this is an embarrassment. If I'm a player on this team, we got to have a meeting. We got to come together and figure something out because our coach is calling 2 timeouts that we don't have.
Yeah, and I always knew Rick had a dry personality.
You played for him.
I played for him in Detroit, and a lot of times I think with the organization, they always said, "Hey, he can't relate to the players." And what he did out there, I never seen anything about it. I wonder what was his message to his guys in that locker room because you really can't. There's no strategy to what he did.
I played with Jeff Van Gundy.
Right.
I played for Jeff Van Gundy, and I'm used to him calling timeouts 20 seconds into the game if you mess up a play or mess up an assignment. But not when you
But he had them.
Not 2 times.
He had them.
He gave it to us twice though.
Right.
He called 2 timeouts.
Right. And
But he didn't have any.
I know. What was that all about?
Well, this was a couple nights ago, and he said afterward, he goes, let's be honest, you're never really out of timeouts because you can just do this
That's
and
that
get the
dry
technical
humor. I told you, that's
and all
that
of
dry
that. I don't
humor.
know. If he has $4,000 extra, though, we probably have some
he has it.
suggestions of other ways he could spend it besides on all these technicals, but that's just me.